motorcycling.
James Cargo Motorcycle Shipping sponsors Under the Visor.
We've just arrived at the Alwyn Castle Bar and Restaurant in Islington, so let's go in and see what it's all about. So I'm here this evening with Bruce Smart, who is doing the talk at Moto Adventures tonight. Just tell us a little bit about what kicked off your adventure, why you did it, and then what eventually it became.
Teapot One was inspired by Long Way Round, as most are, but again, I didn't ride a motorbike. Thought I would do it eventually at some point. My mum happened to be fighting cancer and unfortunately losing her battle. And she said to me one day, look after those that you love, but live your life. You only get one chance. Live your life. And it lit a torch for me, and there and then I booked my bike test, passed my bike test. Mum had got really unwell by that point. She was close to the end. So I passed my bike test, went and saw her, and she said, look, promise me you'll do that trip. And she died 6 days later. So for me, it was like, right, I'm going to do this. And that was it. 3 years later, I left.
Right. So it was, obviously a sad thing that started it off, but actually became obviously so much happier. But what happened in that interim 3 years? I
spent 3 years sort of planning, saving, preparing, ready to go. That was it really, just planning for it. I look back now and I think you don't need that length of time. I literally could have packed my bags, got the first visa and gone, but it's the unknown, isn't it? So, yeah.
And was it always your plan to do the big 74,000 miles? Was it always a plan to do that far?
It was actually originally 100,000 miles. I was going to go right round Africa, through the Middle East, and I also planned on doing China. So when I first left back in 2012, I got as far as sort of Dakar in West Africa, but ran into one or two problems crossing Mauritania. There was a big outbreak of the Al-Shabaab guys, the Boko Haram guys. They'd come in down through Mali, and then they got into Mauritania, so the place was full of police, army, rebels and bandits really, and they made full advantage of a fat Scotsman on a jigsaw, so that was pretty rough. So by the time I came back, Africa had pretty much been wiped off my list. I had no intention of going back there at the time. The Middle East had all kicked off everywhere that I was planning to go. I really wanted to go to Syria, but it wasn't advisable to go there at the time. And China was just proving too much of a headache to get the visa. So I adapted the route and it ended up being 74,000 miles.
So you started it, got as far as West Africa, and then came back, and then restarted. And
yeah, I ended up back in London, thinking that was the end of my dream. And thankfully, a guy who happened to be following the trip just happened to be sort of one of the head UK CEOs of Delta Energy Services, who are an oil company. They came forward and said, look, it's our 25th anniversary next year, we're looking for a PR vehicle, would you be interested? And of course I bit his hand off. And those guys stumped up about half of what I needed financially to do the trip. And that was it. As soon as that was signed on the dotted line, 3 weeks later I left, I was gone. And that was me for the next 400 odd days.
Right. And your choice of bike, was it a specific choice to go with the Jigsaw, or was it just that's what you had?
Yeah, it had been. I've always ridden Jigsaws. I love the bike, I'm comfortable on the bike, I know how it feels, I know how it sounds, especially when it's not running properly, which I think is vital when you're doing a trip like that. You need to know when the bike's not feeling up to it that day, so that you can maybe give it a bit of an easy time. And in my head, everywhere I looked, people were doing it on a GS. And I just thought, I'm doing this for charity. I want to try and not raise the bar, but I want to stand out a little bit, because I've got to try and catch people's imagination here. So I thought, okay, let's do it on the Jigsaw. Nick Sanders has done it on the R1, Jacques Lucasson did it on the R1. I spoke with both, had a good night at the hub with Jacques Lucasson over quite a few beers, and he basically said, any bike that you're happy on, any bike that puts a smile on your face, take that bike. So that was it. Took the Jigsaw. I met up with a South African biker who was on an old Ural, and he had a completely different experience and reaction from people than I did, and I think that's probably the one time the choice of bike really went against me. People people seem to take major exception to me being on that bike, dressed in the leathers with all the logos over me. Straight away they think you're a millionaire anyway, but the fact that you've got all this, I think they just think, right, money, 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 give me money, give me money. And I had no money.
Yeah.
I was on bare bones, but yeah, they just decided to take whatever I had really, so yeah, that was an experience.
Yeah. And as a bike to do a big adventure on, was there anything where it was particularly the right bike for it, or anywhere where you'd have given a choice, like to swap for a few days?
Definitely the seat. Definitely the seat. I've got a fair bit of padding on my backside, but definitely sort of halfway through I was thinking I would kill for like a sheepskin sort of seat, or a big Airhawk seat or something like that. But of course some of the off-road sections would definitely have been more comfortable and perhaps not as painful to do on an adventure bike. Definitely I could have gone a lot quicker than I did, but I put my hand on my heart and say that if I had to do that trip again, I'd take a Gixxer. I would take that bike again. The feeling of accomplishment when you get through in the talk tonight, you'll see some of the terrain I went through. You know, there were people on off-road bikes who wouldn't want to try in it, and you know, you get through that on a Gixxer and you think, happy days, you know, I've done something there. So yeah, definitely for me it was the right bike.
Okay. I'm now sat with July, who owns Moto Adventure Nights. So July, just tell us about it.
We started back in March 2013, and it was just to sort of get people together and go and listen to the people who've actually ridden across the world. I think sometimes it can be quite intimidating because people don't have enough information to hand, and when they hear it from the horse's mouth, they get excited and they think they can actually do it. And we've had a couple of cases where people have come for these nights and packed their jobs and they've left on trips, big trips. We had this one fellow from Russia who came for the first night, got really excited about the whole thing, packed up his job and then rode to Japan. And we've been trying to get him to come and present ever since, but he's just got the travel bug now and he's just constantly travelling. So yeah, like I said, it started back in March 2013 and we've had a few people come and present. We've had Graham Field, Paddy Tyson, Simon Chegwin, and it's a good laugh. It's quite informal the whole night, and so just have a few beers, listen to a few presentations, and that's the sort of crux of the whole thing. And it's a free event, so I don't charge anything, and I think it's a good laugh overall, and people get quite excited and sort of encourages the whole adventure motorcycling thing, and sort of basically I think brings the community together, especially in London, because people don't step out that much. We had this one person saying, why do you organise it in North London? You should have it in South London because it's a bit of a trek, and have a fully loaded BMW. So you see, we get all sorts of people. So yeah, that's how it sort of started. And I used to do something similar in India with Enfields. So back, and this is another life, I used to take expeditions to the Himalayas. So we used to do similar sort of presentations. It's the same concept, so to speak. Right. And yeah, that's how we're there.
So you've sort of answered what was going to be my next question, which was, do you ride? What's your history with adventuring as well?
So I started riding in India. So I was the brand ambassador for Enfield for a couple of years, and I used to take expeditions to the Himalayas. I have a full-time job, but this is just for a laugh. And I started the Delhi Enfield Club as well. This is back in 2001. So ever since I've just been riding motorcycles. I've been riding motorcycles since I was 13, and it was quite handy because I grew up in India and the Himalayas are just there, so you have so much to sort of play with. So yeah, that's where it started. I've been in Europe since 2007 now, and I've got family in Ireland, and probably picked up the accent a wee bit. A little bit. And yeah, now I ride around there, and I'm hoping to do the Alaska to Argentina trip in 2016. Right. So that's what's on the cards, and tonight we're also launching Motor Adventure Photography, which is basically an online platform for people to sort of go and exchange pictures, not exchange pictures, but basically upload their pictures and help other people sort of basically inspire other people to sort of do the same thing.
Right. So when you do the Pan American Highway trip, is that going to be with your wife and the little one, or just?
No, that's just going to be on my own, because this is one of the things I sort of spoke to my then girlfriend saying I really need to do this, irrespective of whatever happens, and she agreed to it, and we ended up getting married. So
you got your pass.
Yeah. Excellent. Yes, it's going to be 5 months, and I think it'll be good fun.
So, the talk's well underway, and I do recommend that if you see another one of these on Facebook, you take the time to come along and drop by and see them. They're really, really great. And on that note, I'm going to go back in.
James Cargo Motorcycle Shipping sponsors Under the Visor.